In early 2015, Moon Studios would release their debut game exclusively on Xbox One because Microsoft offered to publish it. That game was none other than Ori and the Blind Forest, which looked really pretty and came out when there really weren't many Metroidvanias being released. Unfortunately, I didn't have an Xbox or PC, so I sort of maybe forgot about the game as the years passed by. Until it eventually got ported to the Switch in 2019, but I kind of forgot about it again because I was excited for other games at the time. But now, almost 10 years later, I'm finally getting around to playing it. Took me long enough, but I hope you enjoy my review nevertheless. I never saw any trailers or anything, I just saw the art style, fell in love with it, and got married to it, then wanted to play it. And within the first few minutes, I thought this was gonna be about some cute animals working together to build a town or something. And while the cute part remains, because, look at Ori, she's adorable, it very quickly became a different game than I expected. It was all happy and cheery, and then it just takes a dark, tragic turn. I almost cried within the first 10 minutes, it was messed up. But once you clear those tears from your face, you get to play the game, and even if you haven't gotten your eyes checked, I'm sure you could tell how drop-dead gorgeous this game is. Everyone on the team, I'm sure, was passionate about this project, and the passion pours out through the art. Every step of the way, I was just in awe at the beauty of the game. The environments also help elevate the story that's told, which is a story about a world that used to be bright and happy, but now is fractured and lonely. And it's up to Ori and Sign to help bring it back to life by giving the spirit tree the 3 elements of, life, while also trying not to die from Kuro's clutches. Each area you'll visit is pretty different from one another and has a unique dungeon, so to speak. The Misty Woods was my favorite area to explore. It's super cool. As you make your way through it, the LSD begins to kick in and the woods will start to change and form into new platforming segments which can be hit or miss. More on that later. The quote-unquote dungeon that follows afterwards is also interesting. Once you figure out the whole gimmick of it, it becomes very fun. The dev team definitely had fun designing the levels because there are a few trolley traps where you just wouldn't expect them. They didn't really upset me most times because they were close enough to a checkpoint that it didn't really set me back. At least the ones I came across were. I don't know about all of them. They did get a decent laugh out of me though, which was nice because some of these platforming segments definitely upset me quite a bit. I didn't know this was a Kaizo Mario game in disguise. I just had to keep throwing myself at them over and over again until I eventually got good enough to complete them. And I never got the feeling of satisfaction after doing it, it more so felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Most of my struggle came from the controls, which were hard to grasp at first, and I still never really got used to it. Ori feels very floaty and isn't very sticky to surfaces, so I found myself slipping off platforms at times. And I was enjoying the challenge at the beginning, but as the game went on and the platforming became harder, I found myself wishing I could just skip it. Although, once I got the bash ability, I began to have fun again, and the section that follows shortly after getting that ability is also one of the most memorable moments of the game. And I was like, okay, now I understand why people love this game. Unfortunately, the fun didn't last the whole way. Once the dopamine ran out from the new ability and the awesome moments that followed suit, I began to dislike the platforming again. Now, before you leave your angry comment at me, let me just say that it's not the game's fault I didn't enjoy it. I just picked a bad time to play it because I was stressed with moving and I really didn't want to keep doing difficult platforming, so it upset me more than it normally would have. Again, not blaming the game for that. As mentioned before, the platforming is difficult, but I also found the combat to be challenging. Well, more so frustrating than challenging. Sign does most of the heavy lifting in combat, being able to shoot projectiles, charge up for an explosion, and those are your main damage dealers for the whole game. Which definitely feels repetitive because you're just continually spamming the same button with no difference in animations and no way to really dodge enemies aside from the aforementioned bash ability. It also doesn't help that your projectiles cover some of the enemy's attacks sometimes, which was definitely the most frustrating part, because if you don't save manually, then you have to go back to whatever the last autosave or your last manual save was, which is rough if you have a bad memory like me. Again, not blaming the game for that. Although I didn't really enjoy Ori and the Blind Forest all that much, I'm still glad I got to experience it, because the things it does well, it does really well. Like the story, albeit is simple, it was still captivating enough for me to want to see it to the end. Each area has a unique atmosphere to it that makes exploring feel varied, and is complemented by a majestic soundtrack that will make you feel the big sad in certain cutscenes, and feel triumphant when you've accomplished a story mission. I have seen some footage for the sequel, and they up their game, it seems. The visuals are stunning. Yeah, I know I'm being Captain Obvious, but like, how the fuck did they make it look even better? The combat also looks fun, but I won't set any expectations for myself in that regard, since I don't want to get myself excited just for it to not live up to preconceived notions. So, if you're looking forward to that, subscribe or whatever the hell the YouTubers want you to do nowadays.